welcome back to Ycft. This week we decided to ask a member of our audience, one of our latest members, to recommend a film for us. So, James, this video goes out to you. You gave us some great recommendations, but the one we decided to go for, which is one that's actually been on our list for a while, was 1988's The Blob. So this is a remake of the... What year did the original one come out?
Exactly 30 years before.
1958, and kind of updates it for, at the time, a modern audience. Directed by Chuck Russell. We wanted this to be his directorial debut, but he couldn't get New Line interested in it, but they were interested in him. So they actually got him to direct Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which is great. That is such a strong film to start with, and then he got to do The Blob.
Yes.
Who did he write it with? What was his name?
Frank Darabont.
Did he also work on Dream Warriors? I know they met on a film called Hell Night.
They met on a film called Hell Night, and then they collaborated together again on Dream Warriors. And Darabont is, like, very prolific director, especially of Stephen King adaptations. I'm just peeved that you got to say the director's name again.
Oh, sorry. We didn't agree beforehand who was going to say the name. I get the easy names. The cinematographer was a guy called Mark Irwin, and I think they specifically hired him because he was DOP for The Fly, which is very much what this film wanted to take inspiration from. And that guy has had a long career. Notably, he was also the DOP on Scream.
Oh, I love this man.
Yeah, and that, honestly, you could do a whole video just on his career. He's incredible what he does. And this film looks great. He said one of the hardest things about it, though, was trying to get The Blob to look the same in all the various shots, because they basically had to do everything to make this thing work.
Yes.
Like, from full-scale props, stop motion, puppetry, miniatures, blue screen.
It's all going on.
And it changes colour throughout it. Like, it starts off as, like, this pale
pink
thing, but as it eats more of us, it gets more and more pink.
Yeah.
So he said the challenge there was trying to keep consistency with The Blob throughout, when you've got so many different techniques and so many different ways of lighting it coming in. But this film looks great.
It does.
In fact, I'm just going to say, alright, I had a blast watching this movie.
It's a great film. It's a very simple premise, really. But what makes it is the kills and the special effects.
Yeah, so basic plot. Blob crashes down into Earth. And similarly to the first one, because you've seen the original one.
Yes,
I haven't. There was a sequel, wasn't there, like 1972?
There was a few sequels to the original, none of which did particularly well. Just
like that one, we have an elderly man, homeless man, prods it with a stick, cracks open, and attaches itself to his hand.
Yes.
In this one, he is taken to the hospital by one of our leads,
Paul and Meg, and Brian. Actually, all three of them.
All three of them. Who plays these guys?
So Paul is played by a guy called Donovan Leitch, who is the son of 60s singer Donovan. Meg, his girlfriend, is played by Shawnee Smith, which I think you were delighted to see.
This role weirdly led to her getting Saw, because James Wan and Lee Winnell were massive fans of The Blob and had crushes on her when they were younger.
Interesting. I see that.
Yeah.
So just for a bit of context in the movie, so Paul is like Paul is the jock.
I got that mixed up.
Paul's the jock of the high school, so he's in the football team, so he's like really, really cool, and he wears those like sports jacket varsity things that like a lot of American high school boys always wear to denote that they're really cool. Meg is a cheerleader and like potentially a homecoming queen as well, so they're like a really popular couple.
Yeah, Paul's a nice guy.
And then we also have Brian, who is the bad boy. He is the rebel. Also, I assume goes to the high school, but like very much does his own thing. He has a motorbike and he wears a leather jacket. So yeah, he's cool.
And a mullet.
He's cool. No one really kind of pays any attention to him. Everyone just sort of like writes him off, I guess, because he is the bad boy. And the sheriffs are aware of him, and like he's a bit of a rebel. He's a bit of a punk, as they say. But yeah, Brian comes across the homeless man in the woods, clearly in some kind of distress, and chases him through the woods, trying to figure out what is wrong with him. Do you need help? And there they literally run into Meg and Paul in the car on their date. So Brian, Meg and Paul take the homeless guy to the hospital, and shit goes down.
The first thing they get asked is, does he have Blue Cross? Does he have medical insurance? And it's like, Oh, I love having an NHS.
I know. Also, that nurse really can't be fucked with her job.
No.
Does he have Blue Cross?
I don't know.
Medical insurance of any kind?
I don't believe this shit. Look, we don't even know who the guy is.
She was not interested at all in saving this man's life.
Absolutely not.
The blob, then, the next time we see it, has eaten most of the homeless man.
His legs have gone. Most of his torso's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And to us, this film does, especially in these opening moments, really good misdirect. Like, the fact that we open up on the town and it's, like, completely abandoned. It's like, oh my god, is this a ghost town? My initial thought was this a town that's been previously attacked by the blob and now it's moved on? No, everyone's just at the football game and I'm like, alright, good misdirect.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And even with our main characters, because you kind of assume that this trio are going to all be the main characters. Mm-hmm. I do like how Brian rides a bike that's meant to be similar to Steve McQueen's.
Yeah, I think his whole look is just very reminiscent of, like...
I know he didn't like wearing hair extensions for his mullet, and Shawnee Smith had to as well, but the directors kind of wanted that.
It's weird choice. It's very obvious, especially Shawnee Smith. Like, you can tell where her natural hair length ends.
So you kind of assume that these three are going to be our leads, and we might lose one of them towards the end. Paul, spoilers, this is probably like the most famous moment in the film, is the first kill we see the blob do. And it looks amazing.
Paul gets blobbed like really early on in the film.
Meg sees him like covered in it. It's like there's barely any of his face left. He's just screaming, reaching out to where his hand comes off when she tries to pull him out of it. That is incredible.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen of the original one, they really wanted the blob just to see what happens to people in it. So that's why they changed it so that he was quite acidic. They basically say he's like an inside-out stomach. Like, we see people be digested. Like, if his weakness, like in the original one, is the cold, then he should be incredibly hot.
Yeah, so the steam.
So we see, like, people breaking... There's so many scenes of people inside him just breaking down. Like, there's you see the sheriff who kind of has a bit of a love interest going on with the woman who runs the diner. Now, when she's running away from the blob, and she's in the phone booth, she rings the sheriff's office, and he's already on his way to a diner. And we just see him inside the blob, just mostly disintegrating.
Oh,
it's like,
see a sheriff badge.
The love story that never was. But that first moment with Paul.
Yes.
Sorry, I'll let you get to your point in a second. It looks incredible, and apparently, like, the blob as a practical effect just never did what they wanted it to do, and like I said, they had to do so much to it. That was basically like heavy prosthetics that made a lot of the actor have to wear. When something that was known as like a blob quilt that was just covered with like sacks of methical.
Apparently so. I tried to Google it, but I didn't really know what I was Googling.
It's stuff that's used in milkshakes to thicken up milkshakes. Apparently the directors really put off milkshakes afterwards. They have sacks of that and like just ooze all over them. And they basically pull the quilt over them. That gives it the impression that the blob is moving. And then it would swap from like the actor in it to like a practical one of it like more destroyed them. As an opening kill, if we ignore like the homeless man when we see the aftermath, it's iconic. I knew of that kill. I'd seen in documentaries that kill, but never seen the film.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it came so early on in the film, and for a character that you assume is going to be one of our leads.
Yeah.
I knew from that moment that I'm going to have a great time with this movie, and the kills throughout the film just kind of continue to be stellar.
The filmmakers knew, I think, because Paul was, as you said, like, aside from the homeless guy, Paul is the first kill we sort of see in progress. And they knew, because he was the first, they had to go all in on it. They knew they had to make it as outstanding as possible.
Yeah.
And they definitely succeeded on that. A really quick comparison to the first Blob. Obviously, it's 1958. They don't really have the budget or the inclination to go hard and gory on the kills. So from memory, I don't believe you actually ever see the blob killing someone. It's more of just, the person the person in the same room as the blob screams. We cut away to something else, and then when we cut back, that person has just disappeared. So there's no gore in the original 1958 one. And a nice touch you mentioned with Candy Clark, who plays the diner lady, the waitress. She's killed in the phone booth, and the blob just kind of like oozes down on all four walls against it. And yeah, she sees the sheriff Like his face is, his eyes are still moving and everything. So there's still like, I guess he's still being digested. But that's obviously another thing that they did not have in the original. This idea that, you know, to actually see people being eaten alive was probably just something that was like incomprehensible back in 1958. But you know what? Full respect to Chuck Russell and Darabont, because they went for it.
They went
and
hard.
It looks fantastic. It really does.
It really does. And so the Blob is just kind of going through town, getting larger and larger, eating more people. Then mysterious government agency turns up to try and contain it. And story-wise, probably the biggest change is the military in the original film are the heroes.
The military are the good guys.
And in this film, they very much are not.
No.
Israel, the Blob does not come from space. Well, it did, kind of. It's something that they sent up into space.
Yeah.
It was a bacteria they sent up into space.
Yeah.
It mutated up there and then crashed on Earth.
crashed.
So basically the government did this.
Yeah.
So Brian makes a point of how did they get here so fast?
Yes.
It's very much like in the wake of, like, you know, the Kennedy assassination, like government conspiracies were like
Post-Cold War, baby.
yeah, like no one trusted the government.
No.
So it wouldn't really make sense to have had the government be the good guys in this one, and they very much made it a reflection of the times, and I think it really works.
Yes.
But it never takes away from, like, having additional bad guys for our main characters to go up against is good, but it never takes away from the true threat, which is the Blob,
Yes.
which is still just getting bigger and bigger. It's got tentacles. It's grabbing people.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a side plot of, like, Meg's little brother and his friend are, like, sneaking into an R-rated movie, which is basically a Friday the 13th rip-off.
Parody.
And I really enjoy it. We keep cutting back to it, and he's annoyed by someone who's sat next to him. You know the Blob's going to come at some point, and you're just waiting for it. And when it finally does, it comes down from the ceiling to pick people up. You're in the projectionist booth, and there's someone, like, up on the ceiling, mostly digested. Looks great.
I love the first moment where you realise that, oh, the blob has entered the scene, because it fucks up the screen that they're watching.
You see the film, like, burn away, but then
Yeah.
the Blob's clearly gone in front of the projector, and it goes all pink, and I'm like, oh, that's a
It's
nice
great.
touch.
Also, a really excellent throwback to the original. Again, probably the most iconic scene of the original is everyone just bursting out and fleeing out of the cinema, screaming in terror. And we get that again here, but we also get a full-on massacre inside the cinema as well. It's very good. It's very well done. And all thanks to Tony Gardner.
Yes, famously worked on the later Chucky films.
Yes.
I think it was due to, like, some restructuring. I don't think he was originally supposed to lead it, but then he ended up leading it.
Yes.
And he's done a fantastic job. And I think one of the women that get eaten, the design that he used was based off his wife, and she got dead excited by that, and she couldn't wait to show her mother. Tony Gardner's fantastic, and the effects work here is great. And like with a lot of practical effects, it very rarely all goes to plan, especially with a monster movie. But it looks great. But they did the director did consider going down the CG route, but he realized in that, like, in the late 80s, like, it was too much in its infancy that they couldn't do it. It's probably one of the things that stayed the most. There are blue screen shots, and you can tell.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the film in any way.
Absolutely not.
But
no.
that was absolutely the right choice. In the late 80s, CGI was just not there. If they would do it today, and there has, throughout the 2010s, there was rumblings of a remake. At one point, Samuel L. Jackson was supposed to star in it.
Interesting.
A mixture of practical and fluid simulations have gotten so good now that between the two of them, you could make an incredible looking Blob.
Yes. I
You
agree.
really, really could. And even, like, being able to digitally enhance, like, disintegrations, it would have to be like if they went for like a hard R rating,
Yeah.
they could make a great Blob movie. I think probably one thing that studios are worried about is this movie bombed.
Did not do
The
well.
second movie, Beware the Blob, did not do well either.
No.
The only Blob to do well was the first Blob. This one, its budget is kind of, the numbers are thrown around. It's anything from 9 million up to like 15 million. It seems to be the...
Well, I think it was someone on the production team who confirmed it was about 10 million.
Yeah.
So I'm going to roughly go with that. It was $10 million. It made $8.2 million at the box office.
So the original production company, whose name has completely left my brain.
I've got TriStar, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'll put up their logo. Who initially funded it, and they initially put like $5 million aside for an advertising for it, which would have been good for a movie this small at the time. They went bankrupt through production. TriStar stepped in to save the movie.
Yeah.
the movie was put out against like stiff competition, which I believe also included Another Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
So a busy summer without proper marketing.
Yeah.
And the director says that is why the movie bombed, but a lot of studios blamed him as to why it bombed. And it's like people just didn't know it came out. Even like today, there's not a ton of content out there on it. I did try to get a Blu-ray in time. The only one I could have got was a German one, and it would have arrived tomorrow. But I absolutely, because they did in 2023, there was a remastered Blu-ray that came out. I am going to get it. I want it. I need it.
Yes.
But it quickly developed a cult following, and anyone who has seen this movie loves it. We've seen like Joe Blow, what a channel that we like watch a lot. They did like free videos. It's like once a year, like over the last 3 years, someone else on their team has decided to do a Blob video.
Yeah.
People who've seen this movie love it and herald it as one of the best horror remakes. And yeah, I'd say it is. Like
it's very
just
well revered.
As someone who's not watched the original, I just had a blast throughout this entire film.
It's great.
I have very little negative to say out of it. That's not nitpicky, so I don't even know if there's a point in bringing up nitpicks.
No, I think the performances are pretty good actually as well. Like from the three, so from Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith, Donovan Leitch. I think all of them are pretty good. I mean, like Kevin and Shawnee especially, I really like them in the film. And also, I got a lot of, whether they were deliberate or not, I'm not sure. But I also was picking up like a lot of references to other 80s films, especially. So, like, you can't help but, I guess, be reminded of The Thing. There is something very Thing-like about the Blob, especially when you see people, you know, like, mutating inside it and screaming in agony. But then there's a good portion of the movie where there's a lot of scientists around in hazmat suits, and it's like, E.T. It just really reminded me of E.T. Very different sci-fi film, but yeah.
Someone else that has in common with The Thing is The Thing did not do well and was not received well when it first came out.
No.
Either.
Massive bomb when that
but like, was that one is kind of heralded as like a masterpiece. This film, it has its following.
Yes.
That love it, but it's still mostly been
obscure,
forgotten. Like, I couldn't find this on. I went for the usual streaming services initially, so like Prime, Netflix. Couldn't find this film, but the entirety of the film is uploaded on YouTube several times. It's like that usually tells you like the state of like how much studios care about this project.
Yeah.
That no one is like taking it down.
It's also like not exactly just silly, stupid fun either. Like there's real threat in the like kids aren't safe.
I was gonna say Meg's brother's friend, who's meant to be like a little bit of a
cheeky chappy.
He gets taken by the Blob, and we see him half disintegrate. It's like the Blob don't discriminate. Blob's gonna get anybody. Actually, weirdly towards the end, it reminded me of Jack Frost.
Oh, I get that with the with all the snow at the
end. And I'm not talking about the good Jack Frost either. I'm talking about the horror movie Jack Frost.
Not even so. What you've just referenced as the good Jack Frost, not a lot of people think of as the good Jack Frost. Are you thinking of the Michael Keaton one as the good Jack Frost?
Yeah, I'm thinking that, but I'm thinking of the bad one.
I know.
Basically, right at the end, very similar movies where they're trapped inside a building, like a lot of remaining townsfolk with this either Jack Frost or the Blob coming after them. Whilst the lead character has a truck filled with specific chemicals needed to defeat them. I'm like, this is the ending of Jack Frost.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that the Blob does not discriminate. It goes after anybody. And I always respect a horror movie that's willing to kill kids.
Yeah.
It's not something that's ever nice to see. And yeah, the kid's cheeky, but you never...
No.
You never want to see him die. But that's like... It surprised me. It really, really did.
It's like, it surprises you with Paul's death at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then again with its subsequent kills as well.
There's a lot of kills where when it develops its tentacles, like we see someone get killed, the chef in the diner gets killed through the plug hole, up, grabs his face and drags him down.
So
there's the deputy who doesn't like Brian, who had a fantastic kill in the 80s in RoboCop. Well. I knew when I was watching it, I recognised him from something. I recognised that mustache. He gets grabbed around the waist and dragged through some debris. And I'm like, there's so many like great bone-cracking people just...
Spines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case you can't tell, we really, really enjoyed this film. So, James, thank you so much for recommending this one.
Yeah, truly.
This is a film that I will purchase this one.
It's just really good fun. And I it's sad to me that not a lot of people talk about it or revere it as much as... The Thing. It doesn't have, like for many people, The Thing is, their favourite horror movie of all time. the greatest John Carpenter movie that there's ever been. I only think The Blob is not considered in like higher circles, even like with The Fly, is purely just because of the comedic element in the film.
Yeah.
Like there is silliness to
I
it.
appreciate the silliness and a little bit of the comedic elements.
But I think
to
if this was just straight up horror, maybe it would be talked about more in the same vein as The Thing. But I think perhaps a lot of people consider it, like, oh, it's a film for teenagers because teenagers are the main characters.
Quite possibly. So I didn't realize that the 1950s had its own theme song, which was really cool. But there's a song by a band called Alien that plays over the credits, which is also the soundtrack of this film.
Yeah, it's good.
Great. Interesting tidbit about the Blob effects. Some of the unused effects of the Blob attacking the town ended up being used in Ghostbusters 2. That also has a slime-based villain.
That is true.
I found that really interesting.
Yeah.
But I was in awe watching the practical effects put in place here.
Yeah.
And just all the different set pieces. So much time and attention must have gone into them. And
Yeah.
they really managed to do what they couldn't in the 50s.
100%. Yeah.
For a director's second film as well, it is such a shame it didn't do well because he really hit the ground running. And I don't think it's going to be any debate. This is better than the original film.
Of
It
course
is a better film.
Yeah, of course it is. Like,
But it's a different film. I like the change in the story, adding the government conspiracy, having that additional threat other than just the Blob, a reason why they can't leave the town because they're trying to quarantine it.
yeah.
What? Drop it! Stay back! Stay back! It's a lie! All of it!
It just really helps pull the whole film together. And obviously, you have the big bad scientist researcher who wants to capture the Blob.
Stop! Don't try it!
Obviously, he gets his comeuppance.
Yeah.
There's an interesting religious element as well of a pastor,
Yes, there is.
which is the end of the movie. He gets set on fire
Yeah.
at one point, and he has part of the Blob in a jar. So we see him earlier when he gets some of the frozen crystals. Apparently, one of the ideas for the sequels was going to be about like religious persecution.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah.
How cool would that have been
he's
with
like-
the Blob?
He's convinced himself that this was all prophesized and that
Yeah.
the Blob is somehow,
Sent
like
from God.
the coming of the apocalypse or doomsday or something like that. So it ends where he's just, like he's eyeing it in this little jar and he's just waiting.
Yeah,
Is he going to unleash it? Perhaps cause the end of the world? I don't know. That would have been a solid sequel.
it would have been.
This movie is everything you want in a remake.
It's also just everything you want in a monster movie. That's all. You break this film down, it's just a monster movie.
Yeah.
And it's like at no point do you feel sorry for the Blob.
No. It has to be stopped.
We get a little bit of like an explanation as to what it is, which is always nice. But
Yeah.
at no point do we side with the government.
No,
the Blob-
absolutely not.
Is a monster,
Yeah.
and we are afraid of it.
And the government have already decided in this movie the civilians are expendable.
Yeah, crew expendable.
Got a little alien reference in there as
Yeah.
well. I will say as well, this movie, to me anyway, it hits a little bit different watching it, having lived through our own quarantine and our own
You know what?
pandemic.
I thought that when watching it. It's like
Yeah.
we've seen people in like masks lock off areas, lock
Mass
people like obviously
hysteria.
lockdown, mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does really hit
It does hit different.
it differently.
Different context, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, do you have any more notes on this one?
No, I don't really.
Yeah, so this is
Really
basically just been a
enjoyed it.
video of us saying this film was really good.
Yes.
Anyone else who's seen this one, let us know what you think. What you think of it.
Yeah.
I think I am gonna have to go back and watch the original and the sequel just purely out of curiosity at this point. I know they did consider making the Blob green in this
Oh.
to make it more of a misdirect that it would be an alien, but they realized quite early on that like the color, Flubber's great. Even then, like the simulations on him is not that long after this.
Oh, I know.
And it looks really good.
Yeah.
They realized quite early on that the color of the Blob in the original one is too iconic for them to move away from.
It's red in the original.
Yeah.
It's like a very dark red.
Which by the end of the movie, it is quite a red color in this one. I like that transition
Yeah.
from pale to red.
Yeah, we're watching an interesting video on the original. Might have been Matt Draper. Can't remember. I do really like his channel, and obviously 1958. It's like the height of the communist scare, and everything. And he's saying that the Blob, you have a literal red menace chasing you down the street. Which little comparison I much enjoyed.
Yeah, most movies are always a reflection of the time that they come out.
Absolutely. And the Blob, the 1988, it's, if anything, it denotes people's fears of the government, of, like the lack of trust that was developing or was already in full swing at that point. So yeah, there's always, horror's always a commentary on stuff that's going on. It always has been.
So.
Great film.
Yeah, great film. Obviously thrown off to our other channel members as well for always supporting the channel. Again, I'm going to thank James again for suggesting this one, because this has just jumped up to be one of my favourite monster movies now, and I already can't wait to buy it and watch it.
Yeah.
Because I generally just had a really, really good time. And that's all I want from my monster movies. I just want to be entertained.
Same.
So, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you when we see you.